Hello and welcome to the SBP Podcast, episode 24. We are the voice of mobile film, and I'm your host, Susie Botello. Our guest this week is in London. Dimple Devadas has created a movement, and her video reflects that movement. It's called Cillians. Now, the word has a meaning, which she will explain during our discussion, so that's okay if you haven't heard it before. Dimple submitted her film into this year's International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego, and she made the film with Cassius Rayner. You may remember that name because Cassius was our guest on this podcast last month in the Smartphone Video for Professionals, which is episode 20. You'll find our discussion with Cassius very informative and entertaining, so you might want to go there and listen to it. But wait, listen to our podcast first. A little news about the film festival, which is taking place in San Diego on April 28th and 29th. As you know, we're getting very close to the celebration of mobile filmmaking around the world here in San Diego at the Marina Village Conference Center. It's the 7th edition of our film festival. So we're looking forward to meeting the filmmakers who are going to attend and be a part of the film festival's event this year in San Diego. But in general, we're really excited about sharing the films from all the filmmakers who made it this year. All the films in our film festival are shot with only mobile phones, and it's not all about the iPhone. So get that out of your mind. It's about all brands of phones. So I just want to make sure that you don't feel left out if you don't have an iPhone, okay? Whatever phone you have with a video camera is the best phone for you to share your story through film. And film is the best way to share stories, and you can share your films all over the world. Speaking of San Diego, some of the sponsors this year are from San Diego. And because they are from San Diego and in San Diego, they're providing extra support to us. And they plan to be in the film festival to meet all the filmmakers in person. I just want to give them a special shout out. Lulu Films executive producer Mickey Harrison, Swords and Circuitry Studios Jana and Neil Hallford, San Diego real estate veterans Pia and J.R. Thrasher. And you know what? Instead of us going through all of the sponsors this year, please go to our website, which is at www.internationalmobilefilmfestival.com. And then right there on the homepage, you'll see all the logos of our sponsors. And just click on each one of them and find out about all the awesome things that they do. And also go to their social media and give them a like or a follow. And, you know, you may feel inclined to mention that you found out about them through us, although some of them, you probably already know them. They all have a wonderful reputation. While we're on the appreciation mode, I just want to say thanks to our patrons on our Patreon page for your support. You're all rock stars, and we truly appreciate you. As a benefit for our patrons, we have like over 18 posts there, which are only for patrons. And most of them are exclusive podcasts with our guests. Not all our guests, but most of our guests have agreed to do special podcasts exclusively for our patrons, which are filled with information and in-depth how-tos. So they're sort of podcast tutorials in a way, but way better because they are discussions, they're in-depth, and we go into a lot of details. Hold on. There's more. There's also discounts for tickets to our film festival as well. So if you haven't and you want to support something great, which is greatly appreciated, then check it out. Go to patreon.com/SBP Podcast. Now we should probably just get going and talk to our guest. But actually, wait, one more thank you. I gotta give a huge shout out to our brand ambassadors, Vesna Ristovska in Macedonia and Aaron Nabuz in San Diego. You will meet Aaron during the film festival, and he's the co-host of the Hall H Show podcast, which has inspired me to host the SBP podcast, which you're listening to right now. We really are the voice of mobile film, bringing you stories and discussions from the industry with our guests. So I hope that you're enjoying them. And if you are, please do share. If you tag us, we will certainly show our appreciation with a retweet or a share or whatever is available on the platform that you're using. Links to our social media platforms are in the notes. I'm looking forward to meeting all of you during the film festival if you can make it out. If not, that's okay too, but just stay in touch with us. So, hey, want to go to London? Let's go talk to Dimple Devadas right now. Hi, Dimple. How are you?
Good morning, Susie from London. I'm fine. It's a chilly, rainy morning
Wow.
in London, UK.
I love this. You're answering the questions before I ask.
I've been trained well.
Have you been listening to our podcast at all?
I have, yes.
Okay, so that also is a clue. When I'm sure you heard your director, your camera person, Cassius Rayner, who was our guest a couple of podcasts ago. And I'm sure you heard the first thing I asked him is, how's London Bridge?
Yes. Cassius, yes, he's the co-director of the smartphone film that we're going to be talking about today. Yes, so London Bridge is great. So is Big Ben. They're all wonderful today, I think. Anyway.
Well, you're getting a head start before they are, so that's good.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, why don't you? Just for our listeners to know, Dimple is part of our film festival this year. She submitted a film, and we're going to talk about that film. We spoke with Cassius, who did the camera work for the film, and one of the things that I didn't want to discuss too much about you and your film with him because I planned on asking you to come on our show and to ask you those questions. So before I start, though, I really would like to let our listeners know who you are.
Okay, God, that's it. That's a big question. So, my name is Dimple Devadas, and I live in London, UK. And I am, I guess I'm many things, but I work as a doctor, and I am also a psychology coach, but I'm also really into social impact movements. And I got into, I guess, smartphone filmmaking recently because I really believe that it's a real powerful way to actually capture and spread messages all over the world. So I do writing, and I'm a speaker. So I do many things. So
what brought you to this, to your interest in what you just said and your cause to create decide to use film basically to share?
Yeah, well, the idea. So shall I go into I may as well go into the film now. So the film is called Silience in London. So actually, Cillians is an absolutely beautiful word. I don't know. Have you heard about it before? Have you heard of Cillians before? The word.
No, actually, the first time I heard it was through you, which is why I love what I do.
Okay. Well, actually, I came across the word through actually the TED Talks, and there is a TED Talk by this guy called John Koenig, and he basically is building a dictionary of words where these words that describe certain human emotions, he noticed that there's loads of situations where words don't exist. So he's actually building a dictionary of all these words that he's made up, essentially. And Cillians, so I came across that word, which essentially means a kind of unnoticed excellence that carries on around you every day unremarkably. And I just thought, wow, that's actually really powerful word, and it's a very sort of almost mindful word. And as a doctor and a psychology coach, I think, there's just I come across people like every day and not happy. They maybe going through a lot of stress, and that's not just in the UK, it's like globally what's happening. And I just thought, actually, if we all pause, I mean, that's what mindfulness is about. And I do a lot of mindfulness as well myself personally, and through my psychology coaching work. And if we all sort of paused for a bit, what is it that we're missing around us? So I thought, actually, I live in London, and I've passed through Trafalgar Square loads and loads of times. What if I went with my smartphone camera and just captured a couple of hours of Cillians that that was going on? If I just passed through, I would have missed it. And so that's what Cillians is about. And I went to one of Cassius's workshops, smartphone workshops, and I approached him and I said, would you like to do this? And he said, yeah, let's do it. And that's how the film came about.
When I first heard the word, I thought it had something to do with silence and resilience, just because of the way that the word sounded. But that's a very interesting story. When you said you were at the park and you were capturing images, it kind of reminds me of the things that children do, because our minds as adults we're sort of directional when we're walking through a place, and children are sort of curious, and they notice things that we don't notice, in the way that they observe everything. And it's actually it's really good and healthy to do that, actually, to just sort of live in the moment. Yeah, you're going to go there, but that doesn't mean you have to miss the in-between,
Yeah, no, absolutely. So when we actually shot, both of us went with our smartphones and went into Trafalgar Square, the actual approach to my smartphone filming is actually what I call a phenomenological approach. And at the time, I was doing my just completing my master's in psychology coaching. So what that means is you are in the moment. None of the shots are staged. It's literally being there in the moment with the people around you, and just not ascribing any meaning or judgment, and just interacting. So all of the scenes and the people in Cillians, we literally came across them on the day, and none of it was staged. It was just as we were just passing through Trafalgar Square, and it was just absolutely beautiful. What we captured and the people we
Yeah.
met.
And also the slow motion effect, which of course he's a big fan of. He likes that effect. But I thought when I saw your film that it worked really well because it was really pausing that moment in a way, but keeping it going, the movement.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Cassius loves his slow motion effects. He does seem to like it. But actually, in this film particularly, which is about slowing things down, pausing, it worked really, really well. So we both have shots in there which you can using smartphone, you can just capture it in, and the slow motion effects worked really well.
For our listeners, I love everything you're saying because the story behind the story and how, you were forming your story, right, is really important and something that unless you do it and unless you get started on making a film with a story or a message, a lot of people don't realize that that's going to happen. The thought that goes behind it, and it really is. It's an art, but it's also there's a science to it. And I know that you're very aware of that. And I do want to talk. I do want to give you a chance to talk about the music and how that worked with your film.
Yeah, so I think that our actual film has been sort of by a mobile movie magazine. When they did a review, they said that our film was actually part of a recently minted genre, which is the documentary fused with the music video. So it is essentially both. So it's got a strong message. Now, the music is also really important because we co-produced the soundtrack with so myself and my musicians, the rapper, and also there's another musician, and the words are actually based on a poem, a very famous poem by this person called Dorothy Oger. And she actually wrote the poem, which the soundtrack is based on. It's called We Shall Stand for Love. And she wrote it actually 2 years ago today, which is Friday.
Oh, wow.
After she lost her friend in the Brussels terrorist attacks.
Ooh.
And instead of reacting with anger, she decided actually this is kind of, what's happening around the world with all these attacks is awful. So she wrote it as a global call for peace. So it's called We Shall Stand for Love. And so there's a rapper called Mr. Lorraine and a musician, Dan Defoe. So we co-produced the soundtrack based on that poem. So hence the film has got a powerful, I feel, a personal message to all of us to actually really, notice what's going on, the really amazing things that go on around us, but also a global movement for peace and for love. So in that in that respect, it's got a couple of really powerful messages there.
You had this in mind before you created this film. This film was your way of what I call, speaking of weird words, right? Story sharing. Instead of just storytelling, it's story sharing because I believe that's what film does. It moves around the world. The story does. instead of staying
Yeah.
in the spot. And you had this cause, this interest, right? And it obviously came from somewhere. Is there a story about you that brought you to this, or something like that you'd like to share?
I think it's in the work I do as a doctor and a psychology coach. I see a lot of really unhappy people who are stressed, and there's a lot of conflict, usually personal and with other people. And I think at the moment, in the last few years, what's been happening with all the attacks on various cities, including London, and I think it was really a combination of these things that brought me to this point of wanting to produce the film. Having been in London, lived in London for the last decade or so, and all the recent attacks, not just here but in the UK and globally. And Dorothy Oger wrote that poem after the Brussels terrorist attack. So she is actually a friend of mine, and that's how when I approached her, she was really delighted that we were producing the music soundtrack and the video. And so that's where I arrived at this point to actually make the film.
Oh, that's good. So there is a connection between you and the poet.
Yes.
And my condolences to her. That's awful. I'm wanting to know, when you said you give TED Talks or something like that, right?
Yeah. So I did a little TEDx talk in India not so long ago. It's not been published yet, but yeah, it's the theme of their TEDx event in India was actually salience. So the film was aired at the TEDx talk. So yeah, it was kind of screened in India not so long ago. And so yeah, I do talks about health, about well-being, about social impact movements. And so I think the great thing about smartphones is that anyone can pick up your phone, because it's in your pocket, and capture it and share it. And that's the amazing thing about smartphones.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons behind me creating the film festival. I think I may have shared a little bit of that with you before, where I like to pass the baton from the people in Hollywood and the people with the big budgets and um, and and the networking to anybody and everybody, regardless of age or where they are in the world, and say, you can share a story yourself using what you already have. And if you do that, I'll put it on the big screen, roll out the red carpet, and give you that same opportunity that other filmmakers get for sharing a great story. And it does come out or come down to the story, actually. So that is kind of a big deal. And I'd like to know what you learned about mobile film that will help you, or what you would say to someone about sharing, especially being a psychologist, um, how important that is for people to share their story through that craft. I have a friend who made a documentary with victims, and I worked on a documentary with victims myself. And one of the things that I realized and that they realized was that being interviewed for a documentary was it's not just emotional, but it's actually therapeutic, because they are being focused on with the camera, and so they're getting attention, that they wouldn't otherwise receive. Sometimes you're waiting for the media to tell your story, and you feel like your story is meaningless without that. And I believe that the mobile phone, with the camera, mobile filmmaking is one way for people to do something like this. Would you recommend people do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we all have stories, and we all have events that have significant meaning. I mean, every day, and I would recommend that people tell their stories in any way, verbally or in written form. What's very powerful about the smartphone is that it is literally in your pocket. We all have access to it. I mean, especially, I'm talking about the Western world, where we're lucky we've got access to smartphones. And I'm no expert. I'm not been to film school. I would call myself a citizen filmmaker, which is, I went to Cassius's workshop in London, and the rest of it, I'm self-taught, and using, the smartphone technology, I would encourage anyone to, if they have a story, it's a powerful way for lots and lots of people to view it. And when other people view it, if they can, relate in some way, it helps them, or it connects them to something in the story. And I think that's what's been something about Cillians, that some people have literally been in tears after they've seen this, and that's it's been shared all over the world in many, many film festivals, and I'm really just humbled by the response to the film. So I would encourage anyone to become, as I say, a citizen filmmaker, because it's powerful in so many ways.
Well, I do think that people don't really know their skills and talents until they actually put them into practice. I'm sure that you watched many films before you made your own, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I watch lots of films,
You
but
probably grew up with
increasingly,
them, right?
yeah. Well, originally my parents are Indian, but there's Bollywood.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I watch a lot of Bollywood films, but they are sort of fun. I would say the Bollywood films. I increasingly, I would say though, I enjoy watching films that people like make themselves, whether on YouTube or things that are shared on social media. So I find that these stories shared on social media, the social media, movies are things that I find really, fascinating more and more, as opposed to just the Hollywood films that we all watch.
Yeah, and the Hollywood films, most people that I talk to that I've never even met before, you mentioned E.T., right? Or which one, the Steven Spielberg movie.
Yes.
Indiana Jones, or you mentioned Walt Disney Cinderella, and even though they are cartoons, they are stories and they're films. And they grew up with those and they're watching them and their parents watched them. And movies have been around for quite a long time. And so we pick up those things, how they're constructed without even realizing it, you know? And
Absolutely.
yeah, and so you're looking at them on a screen, on a big screen or a television screen or a computer screen, and then now we're watching a lot of films on our phone. And when we're watching a movie on our phone and then we're recording it on that same screen, there's something really cool that happens. Have you ever watched a video on your phone and you start to move your phone thinking that you're recording instead of watching?
That's not happened yet. No.
That's happened to me several times when, probably because I'm recording and taking photographs a lot. I forget, my brain sort of doesn't click that way sometimes, and I go, wait, this is something I'm watching. But yeah, there's something magical about being able to watch a movie on your phone and then recording it on that same screen that you watch films on and with. And I think that connection allows people to subconsciously somehow know how to record a film on their phone. And I'm sure you see little kids, pick up the phone and take pictures. And that's just one step, short of shooting a video. And then putting things together as a story, it's kind of like a puzzle, beginning, a middle, and an end. But yeah, I wanted to see what you have in the future. What are your plans? Are you planning on making more mobile films now that you've had a little dip in the pool there?
Oh gosh, absolutely. So, what's happened with Cillians in London actually? It's kind of turning slowly into a bit of a movement. So what's happened is other people have been watching the film and they're actually making their versions of it. So we've actually got Cillians in Bangalore, a filmmaker with his small camera. That's not a mobile phone, but it's a portable camera. He's made one. And then another lady, she actually has never even considered filming on her mobile phone. I did a talk about this at a leadership workshop recently. She watched it and she was on her way to New Delhi in India to work with her mother, who runs an orphanage. And what's beautiful is she created on her mobile phone Cillians in New Delhi, and it was really beautiful because it captured the Cillians in the orphanage, and it was a collaboration between her mother and her daughter, who actually helped her with the editing. So that was a beautiful version of Cillians. And so what we're finding is that, yeah, people are making their own versions. So what's exciting is you've heard of the film breaker movement, Susie?
The film breaker movement?
Film breaker movement.
Oh, yes. I thought you meant like there was a movie called Breaker Movement. Yes, yeah, of course. No. Of course.
Well, what's really exciting, and watch this space, is I actually, because you interviewed Jason for the last podcast, there's gonna be a little collaboration, and we're just finalizing the details of the film breaker movement and the Cillians movement. So watch this space. Very exciting. Very exciting. So that's going to be
that sounds good.
Sort of next movement. And I am really excited that I am going to be working with Cassius on another music documentary very soon. And we're going to be working with a very young artist. And she's written a very powerful social impact song that is really, really powerful. So we are going to be filming that in London very soon. So watch this space as well. So a lot of things happening, and to do with social impact messages.
Well, yeah.
And
I
music.
mean, this is all connected. I mean, we're talking about the phones, right? The best for sharing, using social media and everything. But the fact that is that we all have a phone wherever we go. We don't leave the house. Remember the old commercials? I don't know if you remember them about American Express. Don't leave home without it.
Yes.
Well, I turned that into don't leave home without it, meaning your phone now, because
Yes.
who cares about American Express? We care more about our phones. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
we can pay with the phone if you forget your wallet or whatever, right? Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what I found actually with the mobile phone when we were just even immersed in the filming is that actually there isn't much distance or separation between you as the filmmaker and the people that you're filming. So people, didn't feel like, wow, they're on film. It just is very natural that people are so used to the mobile phone. So it felt really fluid as we were filming in Trafalgar Square. And we came across all these people there, like the tango dancers that happened to be dancing, the activist, the transgender activist who was blindfolded with her sign, which I don't know if you noticed in the movie.
Yes,
There
I
was,
did.
yeah.
And I actually, thought to myself, that is something the impact was so cool that it could have been something that was directed, but it wasn't. It was very natural.
Yeah, we literally, came across her. She was conducting a social experiment. She had a little cardboard message which said, "I believe everybody should be treated equally, no matter the ethnicity, nationality, age, or sexuality. I'm transgender and proud. A hug for freedom and respect." And she was blindfolded and she was standing there in the middle of Trafalgar Square, and all these people were like going and hugging her. So that was just not staged. And that's what was happening around us in Trafalgar Square. And there were these tango dancers that were doing tango dancing, and then these meditators that were peacefully kind of protesting, and there were all these street artists, and it was just amazing. And then there was this couple, doing a selfie, other people just chilling out, all these skaters. And I think what was amazing about the camera is the mobile camera is that it was very fluid and people weren't disturbed with, in their tracks, because often when I filmed before with a massive camera, it can, people can feel like, wow, they're in the spotlight. But then with the mobile device, it's so small that people kind of, after like a few seconds, kind of forgot about
And
the,
nobody minds, where with a big camera, people will want to know, wait, what are you doing? What are you going to use this for? Blah, blah, blah. And it's a little ironic because, the actual audience with a big camera and a production is a little more limited than what we're shooting with our phones, which goes on social media, and it really spreads all over the place in public. But people don't mind, you know.
absolutely
So it
that.
is ironic to me. It's like, well, you care if it goes on HBO, and only people who watch HBO and subscribe to it are going to see it. But you don't care when someone's shooting it where it's going to go all over the place on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we were filming, I got talking to all these street artists, and they were really excited to be captured. And, they, during the filming, I was, hearing their stories of what they were doing on that day in April in London in Trafalgar Square. And so, they were telling me about their stories. The tango dancers happened to be there, the transgender activists, the meditators. It was beautiful because we were capturing all these stories, and people enjoy sharing their stories if they know that people are actually listening. And it was a just beautiful one-on-one interaction and sharing as we were filming, and also afterwards, asking them permission to share. And, a lot of them were really actually quite excited and honored that we were actually capturing them on film. So the whole process, the message, the actual during the filming and after, just a very beautiful process.
Yeah, most definitely is. And filmmaking, I've always said this, which is why I talk to teachers and tell them to please allow the students to do this process when creating educational videos. Well, yes, they can write an essay, but I think shooting a film is very educational because they have conversations with their subjects, whether it's an expert or someone that is just an interest for that story that they're going to share. It truly is. So for you, you were educated in your process and talking to all the different characters in your film.
Yeah, absolutely. And so on the back of that, so I'm going to do a little sort of section where it's called Cillian's the powerful stories, the stories behind the images. So it's just about the stories of the transgender activists and the tango dancers. So it was a beautiful process. I learned a lot, and just very powerful sharing those stories with the people during the process.
So you said you plan on making more films, right?
Yes. So the next film is with this young artist. It's going to be another music video, and she's got a very powerful message. So it's going to be it didn't start out. It's almost going to be like a trilogy of social impact movement music videos. So part 2. Because it's a very similar theme, a global stand for love, for peace. And then the next music video is going to be, a very similar message. And we will be shooting it very soon in the next few months. So that's going to be released soon. So watch this space.
Yeah. And speaking of space, are you going to submit that to our film festival for next year?
Yeah, why not? That
right?
It should be done, and I'm very excited because it is with a very young artist, so a musician, and she has written very powerful lyrics, and it's very excited. And actually, it is the daughter of the rapper who rapped "We Shall Stand for Love." So there's the connection there. So it's going to be a really a great second part to the trilogy.
Oh, well, so listeners,
Yeah.
next year we haven't had this year's film festival yet. It's next month, but we're already looking forward to the next one too. And I'm looking forward to sharing more of your stories because that's part of what I'm doing this for is sharing your story, including this podcast. You're the voice as a filmmaker.
Yeah, so thank you, Susie. I mean, it's been an amazing. Well, Cassius and I are very excited to be part of your film festival, and it's been really an amazing opportunity for the film to be screened very soon at the film festival, and also through this podcast. And also, if anyone is listening, all the people who are listening right now, if you want to, produce your version of Cillians, because we don't have a Cillians in San Diego, Susie.
Yeah,
So,
why don't you actually go ahead and take a few minutes and actually explain in more detail what that is and maybe some instructions so that people can do it here.
Yeah, so if people, as you're listening to this, and you want to make your Cillians, your version of Cillians, so Cillians in San Diego, Cillians in New York, Cillians in Mexico, it's really about using that linguistic frame, which is Cillians, the kind of unnoticed excellence that carries on around you every day, that you don't notice, for a couple of hours. Go to a spot in your hometown or city and just immerse yourself, like myself and Cassius did, for a couple of hours, and capture the Cillians around you, and then just contact me for the soundtrack, and then you add that, and then you've got your own version of Cillians. And that is kind of what we're going to be doing in the collaboration with Jason and the Film Breaker movement. We're trying to encourage people to make their own versions all over the world. So for the powerful personal message, and also the social impact message for a global stand for love, because of the soundtrack.
That's really interesting. So on the soundtrack, all these films are gonna use the same exact soundtrack?
Yes, and that's So the lady who I met when I was doing a talk at a leadership workshop, she produced Cillians in New Delhi. So she captured the Cillians in the orphanage, her mum's orphanage, and then I just sent her the soundtrack, and so she produced Cillians in New Delhi. So she said that it was a wonderful experience. She'd never shot anything like this on her iPhone, and she was really kind of moved by the experience. And it was a beautiful collaboration of 3 generations in her family, because her mum owns the orphanage. She captured it, and then her young daughter actually edited it. So everyone, just uses the soundtrack and just follows the format.
Well, this podcast actually reaches around the globe to more than 30 countries.
That would be amazing if listeners want to be part of this movement. And I mean, obviously, Susie, now you're part of the movement. So it would be amazing. It really would be amazing, so that we've got versions of Cillians all over the world.
That's fantastic. Well, I have a little game I'd like to play with you.
Okay.
This probably sounds a little weird to our listeners, just the way that I said that. But I was thinking about your, well, let's see. You've got 20 seconds to do this, what we call our shout out game. What would you like the theme to be?
I guess it could be about causes. It could be about like causes, social impact, messages, and causes, I guess, that are
Okay.
important.
All right. I just wanted you to pick that because, I wanted to make sure that you were comfortable with that.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
okay. Are you ready?
I am. You're gonna do the timing?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you just leave the easy part for me.
Okay. Yes.
Get set and go.
So I think that the real important causes right now are global peace, standing for love, health, well-being, for individuals and for people around the world, equality.
Perfect timing.
There you go. I'm well trained.
Yeah. You have an instinct for time. Does that come with your profession that you have to time people?
Yes. Yeah, it comes with my profession. Yes.
I can't tell you the number of movies I've seen where someone's pouring their heart out, right, to their therapist or something. And they say, just when they're getting to the heart of it, they say, all right, time's up. Save it for the next time.
Yeah. Being a doctor and a psychology coach, yeah. We yes.
That must be a tough job. But I do think that it gives you definitely an insight into what you're doing, and into expressing it in your films and in your stories.
Absolutely. I mean, as a doctor and a psychology coach, I'm getting glimpses into people's everyday lives, and they come with their stories, and it really does. It informs my filmmaking, so it is very much an important force, an energy, an impetus behind the filmmaking.
Most definitely. I've actually really enjoyed, and it's like I said before, part of what I love about my job is learning through, not just from the podcast, but even when I have conversations with people, when they come to the film festival, and also just even messaging and emails, you name it. I've met so many interesting people, and everyone has stories to share, and I love each and every one of them. And I feel like I've learned a lot just from your interview or our discussion with you. Do you think it's possible? Just some people like to read, as you know, and others don't. Most likely, if they're listening to this podcast, some of them will read the notes and some won't. So I'm going to add links to our notes here on this podcast. But for those who don't go there to read it, how about you just mention your websites and where people can follow you and how to contact you?
Yes, so I've got a profile, a smartphone profile on Film Freeway. So if anyone wants to contact me, they can just contact me through there. My email is on there. Also follow me on Twitter, or if you want to contact me on Facebook as well. Very open to people getting in touch.
So on Film Freeway, they go to what? They go to filmfreeway.com/
Yeah, and just Dimple Devadas.
Okay.
And then they can see the film, and there's a bit of information on the background, and they can contact me through that.
And you said you also have a Twitter. Is your Twitter handle the same thing?
Yeah, it's just Dimple Devadas. Yeah. Okay. So it's just yeah.
So that's for our viewers. That's DIMPLE
Mple and Devadas.
There you go.
Devadas.
Yeah, they need to hear that part. Now we're sounding like a commercial, but
Yeah.
if you don't say it, they just sort of wander away. uh, and it's the same with Facebook. And then you outside of Film Freeway, do you have an actual separate website, or is that something you plan to do?
Yeah, perhaps. I mean,
or a blog, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, because I do so many different things. It's kind of like having separate websites for all of the activities I do. So at the moment it's on Film Freeway. So I will probably be creating other websites right now. Yeah. But I'm kind of been busy doing the stuff, and then it's like capturing it, isn't it?
Not like I don't know what that's like. Yeah, but I would suggest, if I may, to create a blog or something with this in mind, because since you can share the videos there, but you can also share the stories behind the videos from people and write about it, because I think you're a natural storyteller.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I think that I mean this was only meant for one. I made the film with Cassius not knowing the actual impact, and this film would be traveling all over the world. I mean, we've actually been really fortunate to have won so many international independent film awards all over the world for best mobile film, and been part of so many wonderful film festivals, including yourself, from in 3 continents: Asia, Europe, North America. So it's been amazing, and I am really, as I said before, humbled by the success and the impact. So there'll definitely be more mobile films, and I will be creating a website.
No pressure.
No pressure now. No pressure.
Well, no, that's wonderful. See, and for our listeners, if you do get one thing out of this, outside of what I hope you got from Dimple, is the fact that you really don't know the power of your story until you've shared it.
Absolutely. I would say, if I think if you've got a story, you now just pick up your phone and go and just try filming it, because I really, didn't realize that this film would be traveling all over the world. And because a lot of people, probably, I mean, myself included, we think, oh, we're not good enough to do this. I'm not a filmmaker. I'm not this, But I would say, have the courage, pick up your phone. There's loads of short film courses. Go and do a film course like I did. Cassius ran a very short, Cassius Rayner, he runs lots of film workshops, and I'm actually going to talk about my experience actually at one of Cassius Rayner's film workshops today on mobile filmmaking in London. Shortly after, I'm going to get on the tube and go into South London and go and talk about this, because I was one of the participants in a very short film workshop. And now, I've been, really fortunate to have my film with Cassius screened all over the world and with all these awards. But the main thing is it's had such an impact, and it's resonated with so many people, and people are kind of inspired to do their own versions and do their own filmmaking. And so that's been pretty awesome. So, yeah. If anyone's listening, you can do it. Go and be inspired.
Be inspired. Exactly. I love that I say it all the time. Just be inspired. Just do it. So Thank you, Dimple. Is there any last words?
I would just say, stay inspired, be inspired to share your story and your message. You just don't realize how powerful, people don't realize how powerful they are, and their stories can be powerful. So that's what I would say. Be inspired and share
Nice.
on your mobile film.
You bet. Boy, can you do my commercials too?
Well, thank you, Susie. Thank you for inviting me to be your guest of this podcast. And, people are listening. Go ahead and buy your tickets.
Yeah,
For
well,
the film festival.
I'm so glad that we made it work. It's late here and it's really early there, and we still make it work. There's no excuse, right?
There's no excuse. That's the beauty of what's happening right now. And it's all connections through these stories. I've been connected with you. I've been connected, with Jason now, the Film Breaker movement. And who knows, the people who are listening right now, how many, I hope people get in touch, because these connections are powerful. You'd never know what they're going to result in, and it's exciting.
Yeah, and you just mentioned a few people, including myself, yourself, Jason, Cassius, and I know a lot of people that are very passionate about something, and that's the perfect formula for mobile filmmaking. Thank you, Dimple. You rock.
You rock too.
All
Take
right.
care. Good night.
Good night.